Long-term fans of the channel know that there's one game I talk about and praise more than any other, and that's Star Wars TIE Fighter by Totally Games and LucasArts. Furthermore, the same fans will know that I've been working on the amazing TIE Fighter Total Conversion for X-Wing Alliance. This video was proofread for quality and approved by Angel from the TFTC team. Want a more modern way to play TIE Fighter? Go check out TIE Fighter Total Conversion. Coming soon. Finally, they'll be aware of the existence of Princess Karina, a hard-working professional who isn't a gamer, and how when she tried TIE Fighter out she couldn't stand it. In preparation for a new year of retro gaming content, I decided to ask her to provide some ideas of her own for videos. One idea was to list my top 10 favourite moments from the classic Lee Carvalho's putting challenge. The other was to tell people the 10 reasons TIE Fighter sucks. The problem, of course, is that TIE Fighter is a near-perfect act of genius that doesn't suck. So instead I'm going to list things in a very tongue-in-cheek manner. You have been warned. Number 10. The controls. Have you seen the controls scheme for TIE Fighter? I'm fairly sure it would probably be easier to control an actual TIE Fighter should they ever get round to building one. The function keys to alternate energy. Why do we need to alternate energy anyway? We're flying about in a fancy sci-fi ship shooting lasers. Why can't it manage it for us? What's so difficult about cutting out the middleman and having the ship react to our needs, instead of forcing us to hammer on the keyboard with one hand while flying with the other like some kind of bizarre multitasking chimp? Which way is up anyway? What are those dots at the top for? Why has nobody explained this before the first mission? Number 9. The goals. So many goals. So you have your primary goals without any kind of map marker in flight, then you have a super secret set of secondary goals that automatically appear at the start of a mission, but you don't actually need to do them in order to proceed. What will I miss out on? Any awesome secret missions? No, a boost to your score and a fancy tattoo from some dodgy guy in a hood. There are plenty of back alleys I could get the latter from without having to fly through an old DOS game. Then come the bonus goals, which are unlisted for some reason and completely arbitrary in both difficulty and their distribution of points. Didn't they realise what they were doing to achievement hunters back in the day? There's no way anyone did this on hardest difficulty. The developers are clearly masochists. Number 8. The Escort Missions. Escort missions are the bane of gaming, with so many terrible levels centred around getting what amounts to a wet cardboard box from point A to point B without it falling to pieces in your hands. And if that wasn't hard enough, they'll give you 1 or 2 brainless wingmen and then set you up against a fleet of deadly ships, all happy to completely ignore you and make a beeline for the weak target. I thought this was supposed to be a vast galaxy-spanning empire. Where's my backup? Number 7. The craft limit. So that's why we don't have any backup. TIE Fighter is limited in the number of craft it can depict on screen at once because it's from 1994, so of course it is. This game was running on beige boxes that would turn into a glorified oven if the craft cap was even a little bit higher. The result is that there are no huge set-piece battles akin to Endor in the movies, and you're left staring at empty space a lot of the time. Number 6. It's a puzzle game masquerading as a combat sim. In some missions, you have a minute or two to figure out what to attempt before you immediately fail. What's that? You didn't protect freighter made of glass from the instant death torpedo attack? Too bad. It means that you're railroaded into a specific set of actions instead of having the freedom to approach the mission in your own manner. And the game will beat you over the head with how poorly you've failed until you do it exactly as they tell you to. Number 5. You can do everything right and still fail. We managed to save the ships. We were able to recover the stolen vessel, and we also survived the 16 waves of fighters that came out of absolutely nowhere. What's that? We're slightly out of place relative to where the game thinks we should be. Here, have an entire squadron of A-Wings batter your shields, because you had the temerity to trigger their targeting sensors. Now back to the start of the mission for you. 20 minutes of careful navigation wasted. Number 4. No matter how well you fly, you're on the losing side. This empire is hopeless. They're always outmanned, outmaneuvered, and repeatedly betrayed. If I was a pilot, I'd hyperspace off to somewhere remote and claim severance pay for being so poorly treated. The lack of moments that clarify that you're a vast war machine are entirely contrived, with technical failures, sabotage, and wrong place, wrong time issues becoming regular occurrences, as you wait for your admirals to mess up again and render a seemingly foolproof plan into a logistical nightmare. Then, after finally struggling through all this, the flight officer congratulates you and tells you about their upcoming victory at Endor. Well, by now we all know how that will go, don't we? Number 3. There are 3 versions and none of them is the definitive one. In 1994 they released TIE Fighter, and it had no texture mapping, limited resolution and audio, and a 7-battle campaign. It was a product of its time, and while it improved upon X-Wing, it had to contend with the FMV glory of Wing Commander 3 soon after. In 1995 they promised to improve on that, and the result was double the resolution and 2 new expansions. Truly, this was the definitive edition of still no textures there. 3 years later they finally add support for this by moving it to the newly improved X-Wing vs TIE Fighter engine, and they made a complete mess of it. Newly drawn graphics merged with old ones, a terrible recording of the soundtrack, and the dynamic eye muse ripped out of it in flight and replaced with movie music that doesn't react to your surroundings. Plus, because it was 3D accelerated and designed for 16-bit Windows machines, it no longer worked on DOS and fell over at the slightest sign of an explosion. The worst bit about this though? People will play the most modern version thinking it's the best one, and it's not. It's really not. Thank goodness the TIE Fighter Total Conversion will allow us to have our cake and eat it soon. Number 2. The tutorial for the game is buried in a sub-menu. You'd think that Mission 1 of the first battle would teach you the basics of TIE Fighter piloting, right? No. Instead, the good folks at Totally Games sent you in a head-on collision with the platform. Don't know how to work this bizarrely convoluted collection of key commands? Well, you'll have to go to the concourse and then into one of 2 simulators in order to find a huge chunk of the game, fully voiced, but stashed away from the main campaign. What was the purpose of this? Why didn't you just include the training missions as and when they were appropriate in the main campaign with an option to skip? You know, like Free Space eventually did, because Volition realised that this was a stupid idea, and that a large number of players would completely miss out on this as a result. Number 1. There's no auto-saving in-game. Phew, that was a tough encounter. But now we're floating in space with no enemy craft left, and the gentle pluck of a harp letting us know that this is a lull period in the action-packed mission. We killed all the craft too quickly, and as a result we now have to spend the next 5 minutes excitedly waiting around and doing nothing. Definitely a good spot to quick save, or go to the menu and save, or auto-save. What do you mean it doesn't have any of these? You mean to tell me that a feature available in numerous other games at the time of release as standard and decades before is simply absent from this one? That if we go 15 or 20 minutes deep into a mission and happen to get hit by a random torpedo or collide with a craft by accident, we have to start from scratch? And how many missions did you say there were that we have to complete? Over 100? Right, I'm out of here. I've had enough of this. I hope you got a chuckle out of this. Don't forget to check out the brilliant TIE Fighter Total Conversion for X-Wing Alliance when you get the chance. The link for that is in the description. Happy flying, pilot.